Okay, so just take a moment to familiarize yourself with this graph. Let me go with Shireen. Shireen, tell me about this graph. What do you see in it?
Let's taking a look.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me just, there's an example here, and I'm just going to delete it for now. I think this one's going to be significantly easier than the last ones we did. Is anyone confused about what any of the information in this graph means?
Yeah, about the proportion, that the gray what means, the blue and the green one.
Do you see it at the bottom of the screen? There's a legend at the bottom.
Okay. Yeah, industrial use. Okay,
Yeah.
domestic use. Okay, agriculture.
By the way, this is called a legend.
Yeah.
Okay, so right away, if the information itself is clear, right away, what kind of patterns jump out at you? It's a pretty clear pattern, I think.
Yeah, the agriculture use overall.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the agriculture use.
In 4 regions, there is increased utilization of water in agriculture use. They are Central Asia, South America, Africa, and Southeast Asia.
Yep.
They're using the large proportion of the water for agriculture purposes. And
That's right.
Europe and the North America, they're using it for the industrial use.
That's right. That's what I would go with for this particular chart. I wouldn't overthink it. I would just divide it into the regions where industrial use is predominant, and then regions where agricultural use of water predominates.
And, Mr. Yan, can we put North America and Europe like we say developed countries? Or, because the rest, Central Asia, Southeast, and Africa, but South America.
Well, these aren't countries, right? North America and Europe aren't countries, they're continents.
Mm.
So I want to say yes, but I'm a little bit reluctant to do so.
Yes, for the second part is not all of them like developing, like Central Asia, South. So difficult, maybe it would be wrong.
Yeah, there's parts of Asia that are arguably even more developed than anything in North America. I mean, if you go to Shanghai, right, you'll be blown away by the level of development if you're coming from North America. So I think those terms are kind of on their way out. I mean, this is a very broad generalization. If you divided this up by country, you'd get different kinds of information, right? If you did, for example, Japan, Korea, China. We're not going to read too much into it. Okay, so we can just divide it by regions where industrial use predominates and regions where agricultural use predominates. Okay, let me pick a volunteer to do the general overview, or at least the first part of it. So if you're new to this, the formula that we follow for doing the introduction is very simply, this is like any text you will ever write. You always start off by describing the context of what you're talking about. What on earth are we talking about? And to do this, paraphrase the prompt and include other available information from the graph. Okay. Next sentence in your intro is the general overview. And the general overview gives you a summary of the main patterns or trends in the graph. And we start the general overview how? Shireen?
Yeah, generally speaking, it can be seen that.
Be seen, or it can be clearly seen that, and then you continue.
Yeah, describe the trend.
Okay, so Shireen, in your own words, can you paraphrase the prompt for us? We're just doing the first part right now.
Okay, the chart.
And sorry, if you're new to this, this works very often. Just take the description and try and paraphrase it chunk by chunk. This works surprisingly often. So Shireen, just since Mohammed's new, we're gonna do this piece by piece, okay?
Okay.
So we've got here, the charts below show the proportion of water utilized for various purposes in 6 regions of the world. So let's take it piece by piece. The charts below.
Okay, the graph below.
Yep, and what kind of, well, specifically, what are these things called that we're
Pie
looking
charts.
at? Good, so we'll say the pie charts, and don't say below because it won't be below when you're actually doing your writing.
Exactly.
Okay, and how many are there?
6. The 6.
Mm-hmm.
Depict.
Depict, very good.
The
Depict is
percentage.
depict or illustrate are synonyms for show.
The percentage or the share.
Yep.
Of using water.
Okay, tell me what you want to say for the rest.
And of various purposes. I don't know what's the meaning, to be honest, with utilized.
Utilized is a fancy word for used.
Okay, so the use of water for different purposes in these different regions or areas all over the world.
What's a synonym for purposes?
Goals?
That is a synonym, but it doesn't work too well in this context.
Could we use needs?
What's a simpler one? Starts with R, E.
Reasons.
Different reasons. Okay, and let's continue piece by piece in 6 regions of the world.
In 6 areas all over the world.
In 6 areas around the world.
Around the world.
Okay. All right, that is your first sentence. It's done. This part is completely mechanical. For different reasons here, you could also specify what those reasons are. So once you've done this, you can also look at the chart. In this case, we don't have an X and Y axis, but you can look at the X and Y axes to get additional data. If there's a source, you would include the source. In this case, you might include the names of the different regions. You could also include the names of the 3 purposes. All of that would help with development, because the more detail you provide, especially in this one and especially in the general overview, it can help you get a higher task achievement score. Okay. Now, in terms of the that information, how else could we include that, Shireen?
Which one?
So can we fit any of that information into our description?
Okay. Maybe the share of water, agriculture, use, domestic, and industrial, to mention it.
So instead of different reasons, we can say
For agriculture.
Agriculture.
Domestic and industrial use.
So we've already got use. What other word can we put in here?
Purposes.
Let's just use purposes again.
Okay.
6 areas around the world. Okay.
So, Mr. Yan, is these words here supposed to be noun or adjective, because we have to have parallel structure? So agriculture is noun. For all of them.
Agriculture, it's often used. Let's keep it as the adjective.
Agriculture, domestic.
Yeah.
Mm.
Industrial purposes. Yes.
I think we also can say represent, correspond, stand for.
Where do you want to put that?
As a synonym. So general, okay, so domestic and industrial purposes in 6 areas around the world.
And now we want to do our general overview. So the first part is just a very basic description of what the chart is about. We still don't have, you don't provide any information in this one. It's just what it's about. The next sentence leads to the patterns. What is the point of this chart? What do we learn from it? That's what the general overview is about.
The use of water in 6 different continents?
Yep, and we're going to divide them. It was the first suggestion that was mentioned, and I like it very much. Group together North America and Europe, where industrial use of water predominates, and then group together the other 4 regions where agricultural use predominates. Okay, so why doesn't everyone write a general overview in the chat box? I'll give you 5 minutes to do it. Okay, it's where I posted the link to this document. So take a few minutes, write your general overview. It's not a big group today, and we can have a look through all of them. Okay, it's your general overview in this case. I think you can fit it into 1 sentence. Okay, and you're going to start with this. Generally speaking, it can be clearly seen that. I'll put that in the box too. One thing I want to point out, what's the time information in this graph?
Yeah, I couldn't see any time information.
Right, because there isn't any. So if there's so if there's no time information, then the whole thing needs to be written in which verb tense?
Present.
Present simple for the whole thing. Okay. Say thank you to the stars. Easy peasy. Okay. Okay, Shamri, are you there?
I am here. Yeah.
All right, so we want to stick to present simple.
No.
Okay, tell me how to fix this.
Take.
Mm-hmm.
The highest.
Good. Now, whereas is one word.
Yeah, I know this. The other. Represent.
Represents or represent?
We didn't represent.
Good. It's just spelling.
I know.
Should be.
Highest. I'm weak in where as my spellings.
There we go.
Or else we can say most shares also, right?
Shares. The most shares. Yeah, it's not great.
Okay, high shares.
Where's the other word? Represent the highest shares of water usage in
Agriculture.
Good. Agriculture is very often used in noun phrases like a modifier. So you can say agriculture, you can say agricultural. That's why I put agriculture in the context up here originally. Agriculture, agricultural use, both are fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Overall, it can be clearly seen that the percentage of water consumed in the Okay, good. Dina, if you're there, we're not talking about a specific industry. So if you just say in industry, that means in manufacturing. It's the same thing. And one other thing I would caution you about is farming a perfect synonym for agriculture. Which word is more general? Which word is more specific? Agriculture or farming?
Agriculture is general and farming is specific.
Right. So if you're a farmer, if you have a farm, that is an example of agricultural use of land. But not every example of agriculture is a farm, right? Like if you've got a factory farm full of chickens or cows, then that's not really a farm in the same sense, right? It's not like you're growing crops, you're just warehousing animals and slaughtering them. So I would leave agriculture alone and don't paraphrase it. Because they're kind of synonyms, but not necessarily. Okay, otherwise it's good. Good. Okay. Okay, so we don't need this, generally speaking. Dr. Lodi.
Yes.
All right, there you are. Generally speaking, it can be clearly seen that 1/3 of the water is.
Used by.
So what's missing at the end here?
B.
Right. When people say it quickly, it can be hard to hear this, but in passive voice, you got to put that D in there, right? Or the third form of the verb. Is done by, is used by, right? Is used. Let's not worry about that first word. What's this one?
But agriculture means S is missing.
It doesn't work as a synonym.
Mm-hmm.
Because means are how you get to a goal, right? Like we have this expression. It's, yeah, okay. It's a means to an end. Does everyone know this expression? It's a very famous one. Does anyone not know this expression? Oh, okay. So end is the goal or result, means is the way to achieve it. So that's not quite right here. What other words would work here?
So water is used by agriculture. That's all.
Yeah, sure. If possible, simplify. So we need a different preposition. What do you use this?
What, sorry?
That's a nice machine. What do you use this machine?
What?
Try a different one.
For
For. What do you use it for?
agriculture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Agriculture in 4 regions of the world. And then here you've got a fragment. So I don't know if that's just careless or not sure here, because you have to put capital letters at the beginning. Okay. So here there should be no period. While Europe and North America, watch your capitalization. The devil is in the details. Are using 50% of water towards industries and domestic use of water is less in all 6 regions. Okay, so there's a bunch of problems here. Let's go up here. One-third of the water is used for agriculture in 4 regions of the world. Where are you getting 1/3?
The 70, 80, more than 70%?
Yeah, so that's more than 2/3.
Sorry.
Yeah. So if you put this on the actual exam, you know what band score you would get for task achievement?
5?
4.
Really?
Yeah, because it's so wrong it couldn't possibly be more wrong. So that's 4 if you completely misread what's going on. that more than 2/3 more than 2/3 of the water is used for agriculture. We'll change this to agriculture or agricultural purposes in 4 regions of the world: South America, Africa, Southeast Asia. Good. Watch your capitalization. While Europe and North America are using 50% of water towards industries and domestic use.
Industry, then and after industry there's a full stop, and then and has to be with capital, start with the capital.
Okay.
Or the domestic, forget about the and, just start from the domestic use of water.
Now, watch out for these percentages. If they're precise, they're precise. But if it's not exactly, then you need to put a word.
Almost, yeah, using almost 50%.
Well, that's not right either, because this is more than 50, right?
The gray ones, huh? Almost 47% and 52%.
So hang on, we're in Europe, North America. So Europe.
And North
Yes.
America.
So North America, you said 50% of water in North America, but it's over 50% in North America and it's under 50% in Europe. Sorry, it's over 50% in Europe, it's under 50% in North America.
So how would we say it? Like almost 50%? Because it's 47?
Well, almost, roughly.
Yeah, roughly 50%.
Because if you say almost, that means less than 50%. So roughly can be both sides of 50.
Okay.
Are you using you're using roughly 50% of water?
2 words.
No, same word as before.
No.
For industry. Okay, I'm glad you did this because this is worth talking about. So here's the deal with starting sentences with words like and, or, but, yet, or, nor. Those words, what are those words called?
Fanboys.
Fanboys, or I prefer soyban because we don't really use for anymore. For is old-fashioned. If you read Shakespeare, you'll see for a lot, and it means because. Right? Or if you hear the song, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for means because, but that's really old-fashioned English. So it's so, or, yet, but, and, nor, and these are called
Can I see your screen?
These are called coordinating conjunctions, and usually we use them to join sentences together. There's a lot of English teachers who will tell you that it's wrong to begin a sentence with one of these words. However, there is no such Bible of English grammar that has this rule. It does not exist. Okay? So if you look at the highest level periodicals, for example, if you read The Economist, if you read Harvard Business Review, if you read New Scientist, you will see quite a few sentences beginning with these words, and they're written by professionals. That being said, you're not a professional, first of all. You're not a professional writer yet. And second, we have no idea who this IELTS examiner is. They might be like a really, really old-fashioned English teacher, or they might be, or they might not care about this rule. You just don't know. If I were you, I would not start sentences with any of those words on IELTS. Okay. If you want to start a sentence with and, what other word could you use instead?
Also.
Also, as well, moreover, furthermore.
In addition.
In addition. So you've got lots and lots of choices.
John?
Yep.
I'm sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, it's okay.
I just want to ask, are we, should we mention percentage in general speaking in the context?
Like this is okay. But if you can avoid using specific numbers, like saying roughly half or roughly 50% is very fine because it's very general. But no, you want to avoid specific percentages, specific numbers in the general overview because then you don't have anything to talk about later. This is a really short task. The general overview, even in the real world, if you were doing something like this and giving a business presentation, if you start throwing numbers at people right away, they're going to be really confused. You want to give like a description using descriptive language without numbers in the beginning, and then you provide the details to back up your general overview. Right? So this isn't just a format for IELTS, this is how professionals write.
Okay.
Now, okay, so 50% of water, domestic use of water is less in all 6 regions. So domestic use of water is not the lowest in all 6 regions, right? In Africa, it's higher than industrial use, and that's also true in South America. Okay, so this last part here is not correct. Okay, let's have a look at SAFAs. The devil is absolutely in the details on this. Some people think examiners don't care about accuracy or inaccuracy, that they're just concerned about your language. That's absolutely not true. It is right on the rubric. If you make any mistakes, you're not getting band 7. Okay. If it's really minor issues, it's a 6. If you completely misunderstood the numbers, it's a 4. Water consumption for various water consumption. It's non-count for various purposes in 6 different areas of the world. Okay. Generally speaking, spelling, it can be clearly seen that the largest percentage of water uses water. It can be clearly seen that the largest percentage of water use is in the agriculture sector. Well, it's a single sector in 4 different regions. Okay. You need to say what it is in the other regions as well.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I would like to open practice and put 4th region, but unfortunately, I didn't see the picture. The picture goes up because that I didn't include it. I have to write the 4 areas.
In 4 different, okay, and then what about the other 2 regions? Just tell me what you would say.
Yeah, and regarding the rest of the 2 regions, the industrial use, the industrial use came in the 2nd place in the rest of the 2 regions, and the domestic use showed less than percent or a small percentage.
That's maybe a bit too much detail.
Followed by the industrial and the rest of the two regions.
In two regions. You can just add in two regions, industrial use predominates.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a really good word, by the way. Predominates means, what does predominate mean?
Outweighed.
Mm-hmm.
Like same as dominant, or?
Is dominant or is the biggest.
Okay.
So instead of 3 words is the biggest, you can just say predominates.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Predominates, okay.
We utilize water for agricultural use. However, in Africa as well as Southeast Asia, water, you don't need the, is primarily used for industrial purposes. Very nice. Short and sweet. This isn't meant to be crazy difficult, right? The percentage of agricultural use of water outweighs, clearly seeing the percentage of agricultural outweighs what? So outweighs, Oksana, is that a VT or a VI verb?
No, VI.
Can you make a sentence, it outweighs, period?
No.
No. So you need an object if you use the verb outweighs. Mohammed, the reason we know this is a problem, if you look in your dictionary, if you look up any verb, it'll say VT or it'll say VI. If it says VT, that means it's a transitive verb, and VI means it's an intransitive verb. So transitive verbs need to have an object after them. A simple example of this would be, I like. So you don't need to check your dictionary. Make a simple sentence like this, I like, put a period after the verb. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't. You have to like something. So there needs to be an object. This is a VT verb. Intransitive verbs, you don't put an object after. So for something like outweighs, let's say you're confused, does this verb need an object or not? So you make a super simple sentence, it outweighs, period. Does that make any sense? Not really. It needs an object. Something has to outweigh something, just like I have to like something.
Outweigh the consumption of water in Central Asia.
Well, why don't you use this new word that we used here?
I did it already in the end of the last sentences of mine.
Okay.
Predominates in Europe, North America.
All right. Let's just do this and see what happens. Is predominant. That's another way of saying predominates. Is predominant.
Mm-hmm.
While the share of industrial use predominates in Europe and North America. The percentage you know what? You don't even need this. The agricultural use of water is predominant, yes, while the share of industrial use predominates in Europe and North America. Domestic This is not true. This is not true in 2 regions.
Yes, but we are talking in general.
Right, but you put has the lowest percentage.
Yes, in a given chart.
So it's not true. Has the lowest percentage in 4 regions. That would be true.
Mm-hmm.
Right, this is not true as stated. Right. Remember, in law, statistics and law, every single word matters. There have been court cases for millions and millions of dollars won and lost because of the placement of a comma. I'm not joking. So if it's not true, you get a low score. Let me just show you what I'm talking about here, what we need to include. Because we can just, you don't have to guess about what to include. We can just look at what IELTS tells us to include. Right, so this is the rubric. This is the public rubric that IELTS makes available for Writing Task 1. And let's first look at the Band 8 Task Achievement Criterion, because this tells us in the Band 7 criteria, presents a clear overview of main trends, differences, or stages. That's what they're looking for in the general overview. Right, so that's not the body, that's the introduction, the general overview in the intro. Okay. Now, if you make any mistakes whatsoever, details may be irrelevant, inappropriate, or inaccurate. You get a 6. Okay. And this is automatic. This is mechanical. The reason they put this here is so that the examiner doesn't need to think about this. They find a mistake, they give you a 6. Yes, they're speed reading. They do overlook mistakes, but I wouldn't count on that. And then if you do stuff like this, parts may be unclear, irrelevant, repetitive, or inaccurate. It's a 4. So this isn't just a language test, because writing involves writing appropriately. If you're writing the wrong thing, if you misinterpret what you're looking at, then you can't get a high mark on your writing. Even if your writing is perfect, but it's about the wrong thing or you misinterpret the chart, you get a low score on task achievement. And it's the same in university, it's the same in college, it's the same in high school. A lot of the time we have students writing essays and they don't do any of the preparation work, and so they just hand in an essay on the last day and it's well written, but it's a little bit off topic. And the student is shocked, why did you give me a low mark? It's so well written. I'm like, I know it's well written, but it's off topic, right? What do you want me to do? Okay. So Oksana, next one is Kelly. We've just got 3 more. Used. Okay, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
What should this be?
Without T?
I depict, you depict, the pie chart.
Depicts.
Yeah, that's the single most common error and it's a killer.
Okay.
Okay. If they see this kind of thing, they start to think that this is a systematic error and you get a low grammar score. Percentage used in agricultural, domestic, and industrial intent. Used for. And intent, I mean, it's not the worst, but I don't think anyone would use this. So we're going to say purposes, reasons. Even I don't even like reasons that much, but it's not too bad. Generally speaking, you need the comma after. Good. It can be clearly seen that North America and Europe. What?
No, the whole generally speaking is on the other text. By mistake, I didn't add the rest of the sentence.
Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so we've got one more after that. Okay. The pie chart depicts the percentage of water used in agriculture, used for agricultural, domestic, and industrial purposes. Generally speaking, it can be clearly seen that North America and Europe, the purpose of water.
In this case, probably is the water purposes. Is used for industrial, mainly.
So here we've got a run-on that the purpose of water is mainly used for industrial. Okay. You've clearly seen that you need to put in North America and Europe, comma. Because you can't have that North America and Europe the purpose of water. Because it's not. It's in North America and Europe. The purpose of water is mainly for industrial purposes. And we usually use the plural in that expression. For industrial purposes, for agricultural purposes, not singular.
Okay.
Industrial purposes. On the other hand, the rest of the areas, in the rest of the areas, comma, water is going to change this ending. Do you know why we have to change it?
No.
What kind of word is this?
Pass.
What part of speech is it? Noun, adjective, verb, adverb?
Adjective?
Nope.
Well, it's a verb.
It's a verb.
Yeah.
So this word modifies the verb. So what part of speech must it be?
Primarily.
That's it. Used in agriculture. Whoops. Okay, good. On the other hand, in the rest of the areas, water is primarily used in agriculture. Okay, and last one, Shireen. Mohammed, did you write one?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay.
I was watching and learning, and I will join from next example, inshallah.
Okay, no problem. The largest proportion of using water for agricultural purposes is in Southeast Asia, Africa. Okay, good. Proportion for industrial uses in North America and Europe. Yeah, that works too.
Oh, finally.
Yep, good stuff. Okay, now let's look at the rest. How are we going to put this together? So we've got a whole bunch of good general overviews. Now, how are we going to begin our first body paragraph? So I'll assemble this afterwards. We're going to do it in pieces here. So body paragraph 1 is going to be about what? Remember, the information in your body paragraphs must follow the same order as the information in the general overview. So if you mentioned North America and Europe first, that's what we have to talk about first in the first body paragraph. So we're going to call it North America and Europe. And obviously, body paragraph 2 is going to be about the other regions. Right. What would be a nice introductory sentence for our first body paragraph? Dina, if you're there.
I am here, yeah. Either to begin with North America and Europe, or in terms of North America and Europe.
Okay. What is true in North America and Europe?
Both of them, the industrial use account the highest accounts for the highest or largest percentage, highest percentage of water use.
Mm-hmm.
This is like 1 point. We can say at maybe we can put both of them at around 50%.
Mm-hmm. So let's say,
or at 47 and 52% respectively, or nearly 50% for each.
okay, where do we put, are you telling me to write a new sentence, or are you putting this together with?
Together.
Okay. So we'll put it at approximately 50%. Okay. What else can we say about these two areas?
We can say, while in North America, domestic use is the second highest.
Is second highest?
Is the second highest?
You tell me.
Yeah, is the second highest.
Where's the highest?
In North America.
Okay, like that. Okay. Okay, I thought you were referring to the fact that domestic use in North America is the highest.
No, in North America, the second highest is domestic, while the second highest in Europe, the second highest.
Agriculture.
In Europe, agriculture. In Europe, agriculture. What is the second highest? But it will be like repetitive.
We can fix that afterwards. Now, you need to back up your
percentage.
That's right. You have to do that or you get a low score.
Yes.
And this is standard when you go to school. Any claim that you make, any argument that you give, you have to give the evidence. So how do we fit that in?
either we put, while in North America, domestic use is the second highest at 37%, or maybe at around just above 1/3, or we put it like, while America, 37% of water is used for domestic, which is the second highest.
Okay.
Either put it like subject or like this. In Europe, agriculture is the second highest at 34.
Okay. And then we still have one more use in each region. Finally, again would go finally. It is what, 16? I cannot, 16%? yes, that's right.
Yeah, 16% of water of consumed water.
Of water, let's say consumed.
North America.
Or probably, this would be better.
North America is consumed for agriculture.
It's consumed for agriculture. Good.
And almost the same amount, like same share, is 14%. Instead, or compared to 14%, maybe is compared to.
Okay, tell me the rest of the sentence.
And almost the same percentage or the same share. Can we say goes for domestic purpose in Europe?
Is used for domestic purposes in Europe. Okay.
Yeah, the like main idea, it is the industry, it's both of them high around plus minus 50%. The rest two shares like opposite. Here in North America, domestic is the second and agriculture is the third. In Europe is vice versa, is different. Is agriculture is the second and almost both of them same share like here. 37, 34, 16, 14, so nearby.
Okay, and if you want to describe that when you do your work, that's maybe a good idea. As could be a little bit complicated to describe it concisely, but you're welcome to try. Why don't we get another volunteer for the second body paragraph? Do I have a volunteer? Or should I pick a volunteer? Then you're not a volunteer anymore if I pick you. Okay. Let's go with Sylvia.
So now the second paragraph?
Yep.
So maybe on the other hand, the highest usage. The highest usage for agricultural purposes is noticed in South America, Africa, South Asia, and what was the fourth one? Because I don't see on the picture.
South America, Africa, Southeast Asia, and Central Asia. Good. And again, we've got a very general topic sentence, again, without numbers in this case, right? But when you read this, as the reader, you know exactly what's coming in this paragraph. It's good to have these topic sentences that tell you exactly what you can expect to see in that paragraph. Okay, tell me more. Why don't you start with the region where agricultural use of water is the highest? That would be in
Central Asia.
Yep.
So, Central Asia utilize water, or utilize the biggest amount of water for agriculture. Now I'm saying again the same thing.
Okay, the biggest amount or highest percentage?
The biggest amount.
Do we know anything about how much water any region actually consumes?
No, so the highest percentage.
Right. Does everyone see that? These are percentages, they're not amounts. So we don't know anything about how many liters of water are consumed in any of these regions. So you can't change percentage to amount because it's not the same thing. Central Asia uses the highest percentage of its water, or of water, doesn't matter.
At 87%?
At 87% in agriculture. Or for agriculture, both are fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The second biggest category in that region is industrial use.
Right, but how are you going to organize this?
I was thinking like every region, one by one.
You're not going to have much of a meaningful comparison.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to just list each one by one. It's too easy and it doesn't add any value.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start like this and say Central Asia utilizes the highest percentage of its water at 87% for agriculture, why don't you just continue?
Mm-hmm.
Like this, utilization of water for agriculture is around 70 to 80% in these 4 regions.
Yep, you could do that too.
So followed by Africa with the use of 85%.
So this is how you're going to list these statistics. Just put at 87% after the region, followed by Africa at 87%.
Then
you say roughly in all those 4 regions, agriculture use more than 3/4?
Mm-hmm.
More, yeah, all of them like 70 and more.
Then Southeast Asia with 80%. And as the last, South America with 70%.
Okay. So if you want to put that detail in, I would put it close to the beginning. Roughly how much? So it's at least 70%, right? So roughly 2/3, but then you can't really say roughly 2/3 because that's true for South America, But then for Africa, Southeast Asia, and Central Asia, you've got 80 to 87%, which is more like closer to, well, it's 80 to almost 90%, right? It's over two-thirds.
70 or over? No. I mean, 2/3 or over.
Water for this purpose.
Okay. Hmm.
Water for this reason. I don't love it, but okay. On the other hand, the highest usage of agriculture, usage of water for agricultural purposes in South America, which use over 2/3 of their water for this reason. Okay. Okay. So we've covered agriculture use in those 4 regions. What's next? Does anyone notice another pattern that you could talk about with the other 2 uses of water?
Yes, I noticed.
It's what you mentioned earlier, Dina, for North America and Europe, but here it's half
different.
and half.
Domestic use in South America double than Africa and South Asia, and because here 20 and there like 9, 8.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's say domestic use. Or let's say it might be easier to start with the second highest use, or okay, what would you put, Dina?
The second highest.
Or do you want to start with domestic use?
Okay, domestic use in South America is the second highest. While in the rest 3 areas, but here also the second highest 9 and here 6. I cannot see the first one.
Oh, okay.
If you want to make a comparison,
Mm-hmm.
this comparison should be in like which paragraph body? Like we should have put it right away in the paragraph we were talking about, because if we are making comparison for a paragraph 1 to paragraph 2, where should we write it? Like if I'm comparing North America and Europe with these 4 other regions, where should I do the comparison? In which paragraph?
Well, the paragraph itself is the comparison. All the information is a comparison to the first part.
If we are like giving 2 different, writing 2 different paragraphs,
Mm-hmm.
or is one is like we have divided in the North America and the Europe, and the rest we have divided in the 4 other regions. So if we want to make a comparison, like I can make a comparison that the agriculture.
What you might notice if you think back to the last graph that we did, most of your comparisons will often happen in the second body paragraph, because you use the first body paragraph as like a baseline. And then the stuff you talk about second will often refer back to the baseline information you gave in your first body paragraph. It's like a reference point.
Okay.
So this is not a black and white rule. This will vary based on the context, but this is often what happens. That most of the comparisons will happen in the second paragraph.
Okay.
This is not exactly the same as the essay. In the essay, your paragraphs need to be roughly the same size, the body paragraphs. That signals similar or equal levels of development, which is really important. But here, the goal is to make comparisons, and some paragraphs will be longer than others. And that's perfectly fine for writing task 1 academic.
Mr. Yan, for Africa and Central Asia, I can see like roughly the figures is almost similar, because here 85 for agriculture, there 87, and there 6 and 9, 7 and so maybe like the second paragraph we can those like make it almost, we can talk it in like 1 or 2 sentences, and we can talk more in details about South Africa and South, because here the difference is like 10 for agriculture. So
the other way that you could group them is to group together South America, where domestic use is in second place, and Africa, where domestic use is in second place.
yes,
And
I
then,
thought about it. Yeah,
right,
but
and then Southeast Asia and Central Asia, where industrial use is in second place. I mean, there's a couple ways to do this. Do
yeah.
whatever you find more logical and easier to talk about.
Unless we write, you know, we cannot.
I'm going to start you off with this phrase. In 2 regions, what's true there? In 2 regions, Africa and South America. Don't think too hard on this one.
Domestic use is the second highest. Is in the second position.
Is in second place, or is, yeah, in second place. Okay, and what are the percentages?
20 to 9%. How we can say this one double this one? Doubled in the share of South America doubles.
You could also make comparisons like this.
Yeah.
Sorry, Africa's 9%. Is that 9%, which is what percentage higher is their domestic use compared to industrial use?
11 percentage point.
That's 6 and it's 9 and 6, because they're at 9% for domestic use, 6% for industrial use.
3 percentage points.
Yep. So what percentage would that be?
So 9 minus 6 will be 3 over 9. 1/3, 33%.
Okay, we can do it that way. going to use a semicolon here in South America. And notice what I did here too. This is like another topic sentence almost. It's a transition sentence that says, right now, I'm going to talk about domestic use of water in these two regions. Right, and then again, I repeat, in Africa, domestic use is at 9%, which is 33% higher than their use of water for industrial purposes. In South America, just a parallel sentence, domestic use is at 20%, which is how much higher than their use of water for industry? It's double, right? Share, we can say share, proportion, percentage is double the share of water utilized. See, instead of saying used, I'm just going to say utilized. Double the share of water utilized for industry. And I'm alternating between industrial purposes and industry. Okay, now we've got one more region, right? Who wants to do this last part? Just follow the same pattern. Chamri. So we're here. We talked about domestic use, and we talked about Africa and South America. So we're just missing what? We're missing Central Asia and Southeast Asia. What is true there?
It's the agriculture. In both countries, the agriculture is predominant.
Yep, we've already got that at the beginning here. So that's covered. We're just looking at the gray and the blue in both.
Gray and the blue. It's Southeast Asia, and what's the other one you said? South America.
Central Asia, the two at the end.
Okay, so Central Asia, this is 6%, right? The blue one?
Yep.
Okay, so the water usage in domestic in both regions of Central Asia and Southeast Asia is over 5%.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the water usage for industrial use in both regions is, no, you cannot say that.
It doesn't really tell us anything. You just want to give the percentages. This is the formula. You give the percentages and then you make a comparison.
Okay.
So here, look what we did here. In two regions, Africa and South America, domestic use of water is in second place. So our parallel is in Southeast Asia and Central Asia, industrial water use
in both yeah.
is
the second use.
In second place. Okay. And then I'm going to follow the exact same pattern in Africa. So again, in Southeast Asia, what's true?
The industrial usage.
Mm-hmm.
Industrial use is 12%.
Let's say accounts for 12%.
Can we say accounts at?
No, accounts for.
Okay.
It has to be accounts for, always.
accounts for 12%, whereas Central Asia.
Whereas in Central Asia,
whereas in Central Asia accounts for. I can't see the percentage.
So it's 7%.
7%, yes, 7%.
So we need some comparisons. Here, this is what I would do. In Southeast Asia, industrial use accounts for 12%. Which is, so 12%, and then we've got their 8% here.
Okay. So it's 1/3. I mean, 3/4.
How much more is 12% compared to 8%? I think you said it correctly.
I think 1/3.
No.
12 minus 8 is 4, then divided by 12. So it's 4 on 12. So it's 1, 2, 3. So 33%. 1/3.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan, can we use here instead of account same like comprise?
Yes, we can use comprises.
Constitute.
Comprises of 12%.
Constitutes, good. So this is very good vocab.
Or, but here makes up, because it will be present. Make up.
Use, makes up, yep. Whereas in Central Asia, it accounts for, or just use one of these other phrases, which is?
Comprise.
So now we're comparing 7 and 6. What's the difference between 7% and 6%?
1/7.
So we've got a bit of repetition here, but it's a good starting point. This is what I would do. Then I would go through this and change the vocab a little for some synonyms. But right now, I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, you've got some comparisons. You've got some good descriptions. So that's how you do it. You do the descriptive level first, and then you put in some kind of comparisons. You can compare between regions. You can compare within regions. As long as there are some comparisons, you'll be fine. If you just describe and don't give any comparisons, you're going to get a low score. Okay. Let me just share that rubric with you one more time. This is Band 5. If you only present but inadequately cover key features or bullet points. What this means is you can't ignore any of the features of the graph. You've got to cover everything. Okay, if you just recount details mechanically with no clear overview, or conversely, if you don't give data to support the description, again, that's a Band 5.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between at the beginning and in the beginning?
Many cases, there's no difference.
Can you start?
What's the context that you're talking about? Can you give an example?
No, at once you said in the beginning, but for me, like my hearsay, it should be at the beginning. So I wanted to clarify whether like I should speak in the beginning at specific time. So like, is it okay to use either ones?
Both are fine.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Any questions at this point?
They usually ask for 150 words. I have seen the work that they have exceeded like around 300, and so it's a good idea to write too much, or it's good to stay within 150 words.
No, 150 is a minimum.
Okay.
It's for a high score, you're looking at 200 up to 230. Okay. This is a bit excessive. There's probably too much detail in this. I mean, we've got one paragraph that's at 170. Okay, plus this, we've got another 60, so we're at 230, and plus this, so 270, and plus the first sentence, we're looking at 285, 290. So this is approaching 300 words. So it's a little bit too much detail, but if you can do this much in the given time, that's great. Again, remember, this is for practice, right? If you can't do this properly slowly without a timer, you're not going to be able to do it properly quickly. It's not possible. It doesn't work that way. So
what is the ideal time like?
Well, they only give you like 20 minutes for this.
20 minutes, but we have to write 200 words or 230. In between 200 to 230 will be okay?
In 20 minutes, yes. Okay. So don't worry about the word count per se. Worry about providing the right information. Okay. So once you're able to do it correctly, then you start using a timer. And then you start speeding up how you do it. Okay. But first, you have to concentrate on accuracy. It's no different from learning any other skill. If you go to the gym and you start exercising and your technique is no good, you're going to injure yourself. Or best case, you won't progress quickly. All right, so that's why if you hire a personal trainer, what they will do is they will first make sure that you understand the techniques so that you're getting the most out of every exercise that you do there. Once you understand the techniques properly, you'll realize that you don't actually have to use heavy weights to achieve good results. That you see a lot of people using excessively heavy weights and they don't achieve good results because their technique is no good. Okay, I just want to show you one model for this. Just going to decrease this in size. We're going to look at a model response. Again, it's pretty long, but let's just go through it. And then if you're going to learn to write, everyone wants to know, okay, how do I improve my writing skills? And this is something we talked about at the end of last class. The process you would use for learning to write, because our time in class together is very limited. Okay, you have to rely on yourself for the most part to do this. I would model by hand, which means rewrite model responses. So there's tons of them in the course. If you want to learn how to golf, you watch Tiger Woods play and you copy his technique. Right? Any sport you want to play, you watch the best players and you try and copy their techniques. Right? Mimicry, modeling, copying, whatever you want to call it, that's how we learn. We look at examples of the kind of performance that we want to achieve, and we try and do the same thing. Countless authors have used this technique. Just print it out, rewrite it by hand. It's more effective than rewriting by computer. There's a stronger body-brain connection when you're using pencil and paper or pen and paper compared to a keyboard. I would then create a reverse outline of this text. Normally when we write, we start with an outline and then we produce the final copy. If you take an actual text and then create the outline, just call it a reverse outline. You write your own version based on the outline. Compare your version to the original and critique it. Right, so look at both carefully and think about where the original is better, where yours might be better. In the last step, put everything away. Don't look at your notes and just write from memory. And show it to me. So you're doing it once, twice, 3 times. Writing and exercise, it's amazing what the parallels are. The techniques for one are practically the same as the techniques for the other in terms of how you develop your level of skill. Okay, copy first, then try on your own.
I did copy yesterday's one, the last one.
Okay.
And then it was it was a big mess for me. Like so many things are coming into my mind at the time. So it was very difficult to write, but I did try. I copied it exactly the way it was written. Mm-hmm. And then I tried to produce. In the second time, I tried to do it, but it was mixed up, you know, in the second time.
Let me add this. Read it aloud. Get your ears involved so that you feel the rhythm of what you're doing. This is not going to happen overnight. Okay. Learning to write properly is a very high-level goal. Mm-hmm. If you don't do a lot of it, it's not going to happen. It's exactly the same as exercise. If you exercise once or twice a week, you're not going to see good results. It's going to take forever to notice anything. Unless you exercise like a crazy person to the point of making yourself throw up. There are techniques where you can literally exercise 1 hour a week and see incredible results, but you have to push yourself to the point of vomiting.
Yeah.
With writing, you have to be doing this on a regular basis, and it's still going to take quite a bit of time if you're starting at a lower level. Band 7 is marked really hard. There's kind of a lot of misperceptions about what Band 7 means. Band 7 means your writing causes 0 confusion. Okay. It doesn't mean there's no mistakes. You can have a few mistakes. Say roughly half of your sentences, though, have to be error-free. And this means the complex sentences. So you can't write a whole bunch of simple sentences and try and trick them. So you need complex sentences. Roughly half need to be error-free for Band 7. Any mistakes that you do have cannot cause confusion. Same with vocab. You can have a few mistakes, but if the mistakes cause confusion, it's not going to be band 7. Right, so and just if you look at the range of grammar issues that we identify in your writing, it's enormous. So it takes a while to work through those. And even when I explain a grammar issue to you, even several times, most people continue to make that mistake over and over and over again. That's not because there's something wrong with you, that's just the learning process. Right? How many people do you know that learn something the first time they hear it? Right? In terms of like an academic concept, like the first time you see a mathematical formula.
Yeah.
The first.
Not anymore. Not now. Before maybe. When I was younger, maybe.
But this is not even like mathematics. Mathematics is black and white. Okay, you memorize the formula, you plug in different numbers, you get a reliable result. But in this case, even if you understand what a run-on sentence is, even if you understand that your verbs have to agree with the subjects, even if you understand what a fragment is, that does not mean you're not going to make any of those mistakes the next time you write.
Yeah.
Right. I've been teaching ESL for over 20 years now, and I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of high school students who have been doing grammar worksheets since they were kids. So before I meet them in high school, they've been doing roughly 10 years of grammar exercises. So you'd think after 10 years of grammar exercises, their grammar should be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Right, it's not even close. No, it's awful. It's awful to the point that I don't know what they're talking about. Right, after 10 years of daily English lessons and grammar worksheets. Because language doesn't work like math. Language is more like exercise than like math. There's just too many possibilities of making mistakes for it to be such a mechanical process like mathematics. All right, so why don't we take this and I'm going to transform this into point form. And the reason I transform this into point form for this stage is because the point form version doesn't really have much grammar in it. Okay, so I'm just going to delete the intro paragraph because we've covered that. In Europe and North America, the single largest usage of water is for industrial reasons. Simple intro sentence. 52% of the water in Europe is used in industry, 34% is used in agriculture, and 14% is destined for domestic use. In North America, a slightly smaller share of the water, there's a comparison, 47% is used for industrial purposes. Another larger share, 37%, is utilized for domestic purposes. And then this is a comparison I made. This percentage is nearly double the share used for domestic purposes in South America, the region with the second highest level of water consumption for domestic purposes. Finally, agriculture consumes 34% and 16% of available water in Europe and North America, respectively. Another comparison, worldwide, these are by far the smallest percentages devoted to agriculture. All right, so let's chop it up. So what have I done here? I've just taken out all the structural language and most of the grammar. Okay, I'm just going to put BP1, that's body paragraph 1. Second one, I'm going to do the same in just a sec. We'll read it first. In contrast, by a wide margin, this is my comparison, water is primarily utilized for agriculture in the rest of the world. Again, a nice intro sentence. Central Asia uses the greatest percentage, 87%. of its available water for agriculture, followed by Africa at 85%, Southeast Asia at 80%, and South America at 70%. In two regions, Africa and South America, domestic use accounts for the second largest level of water consumption at 9% and 20% respectively. For industrial purposes, Africans consume 1/3 less and South Americans consume 50% less than they do for domestic use. So these are my comparisons. Finally, in Central Asia and Southeast Asia, industry is responsible for the second highest level of water consumption. In Central Asia, industrial usage of water stands at 7%, which is about 16% higher than domestic use at 6%. In Southeast Asia, water use for industrial purposes is at 12%, which is 50% higher than water use for domestic purposes at 8%. Okay. My percentages are a little bit different because I was looking at it from the reverse perspective. Both will be fine. So we'll say here, okay. So this is what you'll use for your second version of this text, right? Okay, and we're just about out of time. Mohammed, if you want to stick around for a few minutes, I can talk about how the course works. It'll just take about 5 minutes of your time. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
No, thank you.
Okay, it is a laborious process, but the outcome of this is so important for not just for IELTS, but it takes your life to the next level when you have the confidence to write people emails and you know that they're grammatically correct. Right? This is a super important life skill and you're all doing the right thing by being in this class. It just takes a lot of hard work and it takes a lot of patience. Just do the work, do it consistently. The assignment is due Thursday at noon. Rewrites are due Friday at noon. The rewrites is where you learn so much. Please submit your work on time and please, please, please do the rewrites. It makes a massive difference.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
Have a great evening.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.